What's going on, guys? Zain here with Everything Vive. Want to welcome you back for another episode. As usual, I am joined by Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Finally recovered from jet lag. Had some time to get some VR in over the weekend. Especially, I had my niece and nephew in town, and they went absolutely crazy for it. And it's like ages 9 and 5, and it's what impressed me the most was how intuitive a lot of this just is for them, as opposed to some of the older people that I show. And so just the grasp of technology was
and they
really
completely
fast.
they completely buy into, like, with my experiences with, like, 10-year-olds or around that age with the VR stuff is just they instantly just get that they're kind of in a different place, in a different, like, they suspend their disbelief immediately and just,
well, except for that one great story you had a while back.
Yeah. Well, that was like an extreme example of that. That was just, I'm in a field, let's go. And didn't end very well.
Context, just in case, I can't even remember. I think this was around, it was probably around like Thanksgiving time, right?
Yeah, I think it was that weekend.
Just for context for anyone who hadn't listened to that episode, Ronnie was playing, I think, the final goalie game, and gave it to a smaller child. I want to say, 5 years old, less?
Yeah. I won't divulge too many details, but yeah, a small child decided to play it, put it on, and we were there watching, supervising, etc. But it was just like that split reaction. As soon as he was in it, he thought he was outside,
like on a soccer field.
Yeah, he just darted, like he just ran, and like I said, we were all right next to him, and just bam, ran straight into a wall. And it was kind of one of those. I mean, the headset obviously hit the wall, and he was fine. The hardware was fine. The wall was fine. Everybody was fine.
But it just made for a great story.
Oh man, it was. I wish if we would have had that on video, it would have been the most amazing thing. Because honestly, it was like, I can't even. Just how ridiculous it was. It's hard to explain with words. You kind of had to, because it was, I mean, dead, like 100%, just boom, like pretend. I mean, kind of like a bird into a window or something. It was just, there was no stopping this kid.
He just booked it thinking he was on a soccer field.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's immersion there, right there for you. All right, cool, man. Well, let's start off with some news, but actually before we get there, a couple quick housekeeping things. First off, we are on iTunes, Stitcher, and all those good things. We're really trying to grow iTunes right now, and so just another reminder that we are giving away a Steam gift card at the beginning of every month. So May is going to be the first month that we do this. It'll be $20, and the way that you can enter is by leaving a review on iTunes, letting us know how we're doing, if you like the show, what you like about it, and just kind of sharing it from there, and making sure you take a screenshot and sending it to contact@everythingvive.com. There'll be information in the there'll be information in the show notes, so you can always check that out. But yeah, we got quite a few people entered in so far, so we'll be pulling one every month, and it never expires, so it doesn't hurt to get it in there.
Very cool.
But yeah, moving on to news. Before we actually get into the articles and such, just want to throw a little plug out for VR Roundtable. The great guys over there had me on the show as a guest over the weekend, and I believe the show is posted already, so that's episode number 31. We just chatted about not specifically Vive stuff, but VR in general, and it was a lot of fun. They got a great show. I think the podcast is also available on iTunes, but there's a video up on YouTube, on their YouTube channel. So whatever format you prefer, make sure you check them out, show them some love, and yeah, that's that. You ready to jump in, Ronnie?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet. So where shall we start? Let's start with the techie stuff, because I feel like you're pretty excited about this, even though you have a Vive already. But HTC is offering some bundles now, and I want to say that the biggest one, or at least the most appealing one, especially for those people building their own PCs, is they are bundling an Nvidia GTX 1070 video card with an HTC Vive for $999, so just under $1,000. For those not wanting to do the math, it's about $200 off. And with their 24,
which is not insubstantial.
No,
I mean,
$200 is a lot. Yeah,
oh yeah.
And with their financing program for 24 months, you can get a Vive for under $50. I think it's $49 a month for 24 months, which is a deal I wish I could have gotten, but I'm financing mine through Newegg, and hey, you know what? Newegg is great. They came through in the clutch, and but 24 months of financing for 0% interest is not a bad deal. But this deal is going to expire. It looks like it's going up until April 24th. So for anybody still on the fence, any listeners who aren't yet Vive owners but want to get in, this is probably going to be one of the best chances for you to get in if you're building your own computer. Now, I know that they also have...
Well, even if you already own a computer, I mean, assuming you don't have a gaming laptop that's powerful enough to run a Vive. I mean, if you have an older PC that meets the requirements of running a 1070, you want to make sure that you have like a decent power supply. For example, most systems will. It's not like the 1070 is a power hog or anything like that. But if you have a PC that might not be graphically capable enough of running a Vive, but it's a decent computer, and you're able to expand it. If it has an empty PCI PCI Express slot, you can just plug in the card and go. A 1070 is a great experience for VR. I mean, you have
I have a 1070, don't I?
And yeah, you do.
I mean, I should know, but Ronnie built my computer, so that's what I'm deferring to him.
1070s are great cards to be running VR on right now, and quite frankly, I mean, I just went and looked up the price of a 1070. And I know we were saying, around $200 off, but that's close to 50% off of a 1070 to begin with. It looks like most 1070s go for around $400. So if you're already interested in getting a Vive, or if you're interested in upgrading your PC, you have an older system and you want to be able to play some games, a 1070 is going to be a great card for 1080p or 1440p gaming. And on top of that, you're going to get, the Vive along with it. Like, I think this is a great opportunity for people that are on the market. So definitely check that out, in these next few days if you can, if anybody out there is on the fence and is interested.
Absolutely. And just to also mention, in case you're not wanting to build your own computer or mess with stuff and you want to get something that is completely ready, they do have a laptop and a desktop that they are pairing up with the Vive. And I think that it's like $125 per month for the laptop and $99 for the desktop. I think it's a CyberPower PC and an MSI laptop. But these are the machines. I think the MSI laptop is what they on their blog is where a lot of this info is. But they're saying that this is what they take to trade shows and stuff. So it's definitely VR ready.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, even just a few months ago, before the launch of the 10 series laptop mobile GPUs, it was harder to find a laptop that would do a decent job at VR. But now it's quite a bit easier. Obviously, you're going to be paying a premium to have a laptop that's able to push VR as well as a desktop would be. But there are more solutions out there now than there were before. I would just try to do my best to find something that has a 1070 or 1080 in it if you are looking for a laptop, and those are going to be more expensive. I'm not saying it's not, but it's quite a bit different than a year ago when there really wasn't, in my opinion, any laptops out there that could give you a good VR experience. Now there are some if you're trying to go down that route. So
yeah, I remember you had advised against a laptop, and I also remember I think one of the favorite comments that I had seen on Reddit was, I think someone had posted like, what's the best laptop to get for a Vive or for VR, and like the top upvoted response on Reddit was a PC. So at that time it was completely different, but obviously HTC is putting a lot of faith in this MSI bundle that they have. So if they're using it, I would say that you're probably going to be pretty safe to use it as well. And as like what Ronnie was saying earlier with the 1080 and all that, you want to future proof it a little bit, but at the same time I also feel like you were going into this before, Ronnie, about how it wasn't necessarily, you didn't need something that high end to play, to play most of the VR experiences. Would you say that's changing now with some of the newer experiences that are coming out or some of the stuff that's in the pipeline? Or are you still going to maintain that, a 1070 is going to last you a decent amount of time?
I mean, you're speaking to someone that just upgraded to a 1080 Ti, so I don't know if.
But see, you're into this stuff. Let's look at it for like the lay people here, like myself, who don't follow that and just want something that'll be functional for a good 2 years or so.
In my opinion, I mean, unless you're I think the people out there that need something better than a 1070, especially right now, are already going to know that that's what they're already going to be into this enough to be able to determine whether or not the extra cost makes sense to them. I mean, right now, in my opinion, the biggest benefit to having more GPU power, above and beyond like a 1070, let's say, is really to crank up the resolution. In certain titles, they'll allow you to raise the resolution, use what's called super sampling, to basically render the game at a higher resolution than the headset is capable of displaying, and then scaling that down. And basically what that does is it makes the image a little cleaner. It gets rid of jaggies and aliasing that happens at lower resolutions. So it just makes the image look a little bit cleaner and sharper. So for people that are super sensitive to artifacts and jaggies and those kind of visual artifacts in games, there's a benefit, but again, those people are going to know who they are. They're already going to be probably into this stuff. I think most people, your average consumer, probably doesn't even know what a lot of that stuff is, probably won't care. Sure, they would, notice some difference if you tried to get them, if you tried pointing it out to them, but they're not going to really mess with that stuff anyways. And I think a 1070 is really the best. I mean, really what you're aiming for is you want consistency of frame rate. So you want your system to have, proper frame times. You want it to have to be able to keep that minimum 90 frame per second that the headset supports as often as possible. Because there is a step off where if your computer can't keep up, it will kind of, basically cut that frame rate in half and then use some different techniques to try to make up for the difference. And if your computer is doing that too often in VR, it can lead to more motion sickness and more, issues like that. So the reason I'm mentioning all that stuff is to say that it is important to have a strong enough, graphics card and strong enough PC to run your titles, to avoid those types of issues with motion sickness and keeping the frame rate steady, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, assuming you're not going to, go all out on the super sampling and raise that resolution super high in your game settings, a 1070 is going to, 95% of the time probably keep you within that range. And really, going further up on the totem pole with a 1080 or a 1080 Ti or Titan XP, the new one, whatever. By getting those types of systems, you're really just going from like 95% to 99%, or even maybe even higher than that. Just that little extra few percentage of situations. If you're not going to be cranking up the resolution and whatnot. And for most people, I don't think that's going to be worth it, really. So yeah. So
well,
right now
you got it. So
yeah, but for me, I mean, and I do notice. I mean, I was running a 980 Ti before, which is in a lot of ways very similar to a 1070. But I was actually running two 980 Ti's, but running multiple GPUs right now really doesn't work in VR. So I mostly had the two 980 Ti's to power a 4K monitor that I play traditional games on, and I was just having a lot of. I mean, I've ran SLI setups in the past. I had multiple 970s actually before I had gotten rid of them and upgraded to the 980 Ti's and a couple of other things. And I mean, basically in general, if look to what you're trying to power, be it a monitor or a VR headset or whatever, and then figure out, okay, how much power do I need to run my games at the settings I like at those resolutions? And for me, in order to play my games on a 4K monitor, really the only good alternative at the time was, to be running an SLI with the 980 Ti's. Well, now when the 1080 Ti came out, it's a little bit weaker than both, but it gets you, 95% there on a single card, but you get rid of all of the stuttering issues and other complications that arise with using multiple graphics cards. And on top of that, you get the benefit of being able to use all of that GPU power in VR. Because again, whenever I was playing games that either didn't support SLI, or VR games, it basically was just using one card, and the other card was just kind of sitting there doing nothing. And so I upgraded, and I am very happy with my purchase because I immediately can tell the difference just in terms of frame pacing and the stuttering and all that. Like, even if you were getting higher frame rates in certain situations with the two 980 Ti's as compared to the 1080 Ti, the single card, the single card just has such a smoother operation. As far as like I said, just your average game, even if the frame rate's a little lower, just feels a lot better with the single card. So anyways, so that's my spiel and update on my computer, because it has been nice kind of messing with it a little bit since I got it. And
the fact that you notice a significant difference, though, I think still means So
no, it was definitely it was kind of a side upgrade for me, but at the same time, like it definitely is quite and I was able to sell my cards for a decent amount. So that's all stuff that people especially if you're new into the PC world, is just to kind of be mindful that the technology is always changing and new products are going to be coming out, and it's always just kind of a juggling of, well, how much does it cost? How much is it really going to benefit me? And there's so many good sources for that kind of stuff out there. If you're interested on YouTube, different websites, etc., of people that are really going out of their way to compare different graphics cards, different setups. And so if you're starting to kind of crave, a change, or, things are starting to slow down a little bit in games and whatnot, it's always a good thing to do, to just kind of keep your eyes open to what new products are being released, and then always do your research before, putting your money down, and really see that, okay, like, understand what you're probably going to be getting for your money if you decide to upgrade, and kind of balance that on how much you're able to sell your old hardware for and all that kind of and if you do it all right, then hopefully you'll avoid feeling like you spent too much money on something in the past that eventually becomes obsolete or what. It's the way all this stuff works. But just like with phones and everything, if you manage your computer right, you'll always be getting the performance you want, and hopefully you'll be doing it for a decent price as well.
For sure. So, well, let's get to
that took a little longer than I thought it would, but it was kind of inevitable, honestly. I just got this new graphics card, and I knew it was only a matter of time before I talked about it on the podcast one way or another. So
I mean, no, it's not bad. I mean, like I said, there's definitely people out there. I mean, Damon, for instance, who actually find this stuff fascinating and who would benefit from your experience. Like I said, a lot of it just goes over my head. But I'm the layman on the show. You're the tech expert. So
yeah, for those interested, 1080 Ti. I actually got an MSI Gaming X. It was one of the first partner boards that came out. But yeah, great card, works very well. I wouldn't get it if you're trying to run game. Even if you're running a 1440p monitor, I think it's kind of a stretch unless it's high frame rate. So really, this is a card that you should be looking at really only if you're high frame rate, high resolution type gaming. And I think for those types of applications, it's a great deal right now. So
for sure. So, what I was going to say earlier is let's move on to a topic that is relevant for Vive already Vive users or people who already own Vives. And I know you and I had talked about it a little bit before, but it looks like just today or just very recently, Google Earth VR updated or put out a big update. And I think the two main functions from there were the new search function, which is fantastic because I was just manually searching before, and that's actually kind of fun. But being able to just search stuff up, I think is going to add a whole nother dynamic. And I haven't had a chance to jump in yet, but I'm hoping to do that soon.
Do you know? I saw the search function. I did jump in for a second, and I got distracted by just like looking at monuments and all those kind of things that were kind of. I mean, at least some of them were already there, but. Do you know in the search function, can you put in an address?
I would assume so. That's what I was reading earlier.
Okay. No, so it's definitely a search function with all the, so I just wanted to make sure it's not like, limited to city or in country or something like that. Cause putting in an exact address is kind of a game changer in terms of it's fun to find your but it's also limiting in terms of, you can only physically find so many places, right? But if you can actually put in the address, you can be there with a bunch of friends and find your workplace, for example, instead of having to trek road by road to go and find it. Or this kind of makes me excited to jump in and kind of look up some places, but.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now you got me doubting what I had read earlier.
Yeah, so I saw the search function when I was in the game. Basically, you hit the menu button, and right there below where the other icons were before, like, picking cities and destinations and that sort of thing, at the very bottom, there's a little icon that has a magnifying glass. You just click it, and a keyboard pops up, and you can kind of type in whatever. I didn't get a chance to try it myself yet, so I just didn't know if there were any limitations as far as, putting in specific like cities and countries and whatnot versus being able to just put in just straight up street addresses. So
gotcha. So no, you had me doubting what I had read earlier, but on Google's blog, it says that you can put in a full address or just
Perfect.
a location name. So that's pretty robust. I mean, that's essentially just Google Maps at this point, where you can just type in something and, it'll pretty much zoom you over there. I assume. I don't know how that looks, but it would actually be kind of cool. I need to check it out now.
No, for sure. So, and then, I mean, for anybody that hasn't tried it, Google, it's for free. You should definitely, I don't know what you're waiting for if you have a Vive. And actually, I think that was one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they added Oculus support as well.
Correct. Yeah. So if there are any Oculus users listening to this, this thing is free. You need to get it. It's not a game. It's not like it has a lot of like replay value, but I think it's really just one of the coolest VR experiences I've ever come across. And I think it's the same for you. And the fact that it's free only makes it a no-brainer.
And it's a cool demo. I mean, for people out there that just want something quick and easy to show people, I mean, there are aspects, if you have it set up wrong, I shouldn't say set up wrong, but if you have certain options and the settings turned off, it can get people a little sick if you move around in weird ways. But in general, it's easy to understand. People know what Google Earth is. And I think being in VR makes the experience so much more, I guess astonishing, for lack of better words. It's really it's kind of a breathtaking kind of thing to try for the first time. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, the functionality, the things that you can do inside of it, and now the fact that you can just search specifically. Before, I mean, part of the fun was like, okay, where did I visit, such and such, or, let me find where I live by zooming in on a city and then finding like main cross streets and, you know what I mean? Like now that you can just search that, I'm not going to say that's going to take away the fun, but, it does allow you to just, check out certain places before you even go. So now you can kind of stand in the street. You'll know exactly what to look for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
So yeah, it's just, I can't wait to use it on a more like functional level.
I'm just going to put this out there because I think I had misread something earlier. For anyone listening that's able to work on it, I mean, obviously this is probably beyond any kind of budget that anybody would have, but how cool would it be if you could put actual tours in there, like, you know, some kind of narrated guide to different cities, at least the really big ones? I think that would be so cool. But again, that's kind of asking for a lot out of a free application, but
well, you know what? It might be one of those things where like Google Earth is free, and you know, the same way that smartphone apps have gone, where it's like in-app purchases, where you know, Google could offer these tours for I don't know how much, but you know, whatever made sense to them, where they would have like these tours that you could buy if you're really sold on the Google VR app, and you know, instead of obviously nothing beats traveling to an actual location, but you know, for VR enthusiasts and for people who want to check stuff out, it might be cool. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just a good way to learn. Because
yeah, like
again, like you said, like there's no you know, substitution for the real thing as far as traveling goes, but it's just like, you know, being able, I do think to some degree VR does allow people to kind of learn in a way that's more visual, like you are actually there in a sense. Like if you're able to look at the buildings and be kind of in the city while you're learning about
and see the scale of everything around you too.
That's what I mean. Like I think it definitely adds a dimension to that kind of stuff past just reading about it in a book and looking at pictures. So
no, I agree. Well, I mean, if anybody from Google is listening, you can totally take that idea, because I would buy it. I would totally buy it.
Please take my idea.
So, all right. Well, we got a couple more articles, or just a couple more topics that I want to touch on real quick. The first is, I know you and I had talked about a little bit beforehand, but Ridley Scott, the director of Alien, Blade Runner, and so many other films, is launching a VR movie division. And I saw this on the Road to VR article, and it's through his company, Ridley Scott Associates. And you know, they recently did the Martian VR experience, which is based on the movie that came out a couple years ago. And they have an upcoming one for the Alien Covenant movie that will be coming out, I want to say, pretty soon. So, but you know, this is a dedicated VR division where, I mean, they're looking to create some really cool stuff and really expand film and cinema in the VR space. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I never really tried out the Martian experience. I mean, I heard kind of mixed things, but in general, I'm super excited about more and more tie-ins. I mean, I'm still kind of waiting with a bated breath for you know, for Disney to kind of do more with the Star Wars franchise in VR. We got that little teaser, you know, earlier in the year, but to have something more fully fledged out would be amazing. So in general, I think it's exciting to see, you know, Ridley Scott and other people in the film industry kind of take hold. You have, you know, the John Wick Chronicles and all these other. I mean, I think more and more tie-ins like that, you know, are bound to lead to some really cool experiences. And I mean, I can't be the only one. There's a ton of people out there that, you know, would just completely geek out to be able to feel like, you know, they were in one of the movies that they went and saw, you know, in the theater the weekend before or something. So I think it's really cool.
No, I mean, I agree with you just on the whole, you know, entertainment level and what it is. Like for me as a consumer, I think it's fantastic. But kind of what you were talking about before in terms of, you know, waiting on Disney to do more with the Star Wars material that they have. To me, this actually signals, you know, to just take a step back, you know, the whole argument about, is VR there yet? Is it just another fad again, or is it going to fail and flop again? Like, when big name people in the industry like Ridley Scott are taking this seriously, and we know, Jon Favreau is working on something. Disney did a little bit already, and then like you mentioned, the John Wick Chronicles, and now Ridley Scott with some of the experiences that he's working on, and the fact that he's launching a whole division within his company. There are people out there who are industry tastemakers, and people who set the trends that are taking VR pretty seriously. So to me, this kind of represents that shift, and that it's not really shift. What's the word I'm looking for? But more so just validation that VR is here to stay. You see it in all the consumer stuff, especially with Samsung Gear VR and all Google Pixel, and it's definitely permeating in all different aspects of our lives. And so to see someone like I said, like Ridley Scott go through and put kind of his money where his mouth is. I don't know. To me, it's exciting. It's good. It feels good. It's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, yeah, VR. I know, and I feel even better about the fact that I'm as excited about it as I am.
Yeah, and and kind of just to look at some of those experiences that have already came out. I mean, I guess part of me hopes that this is going to be more like a John Wick Chronicles than it is going to be like the Martian experience. And again, like I didn't play the Martian experience. I don't want to, focus too much. But, in general, looking at titles as self-contained experiences or products in and of themselves, rather than just some kind of marketing tool for free kind of hype up a movie, or even for money, hype up a movie, is kind of what I'm hoping to these studios and Ridley Scott and others are going to avoid. I mean, it is cool that you get attention to VR, but part of me kind of worries that they look at this as kind of, hey, you have a big movie franchise, you have a big film coming out. One of the kind of check marks on your marketing strategy is come out with a cool kind of throwaway VR experience to kind of get people talking about it or something like I don't want it to be like that. I'd rather people really and companies take the time to really, if it makes sense to come out with the VR experience, to do it right, do it justice, and put the proper time and resources into it to really come out with something that people are going to love and hopefully be willing to spend money on. I think people are willing to spend money if a product is high quality. So, and definitely with Ridley Scott's work and with the Alien franchise in general, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer in terms of VR. I know people had played Alien Isolation with various mods to try to play it in VR, and but just that atmosphere in general leads to in the horror genre leads to great VR experiences. So I think this could potentially be a good one. I hope it's not a throwaway experience. I hope it is something more substantial that I can pay a decent amount of money for and really have a good time with. So.
Yep. No, I mean, I see where you're coming from in terms of it not having it just be some gimmicky thing. Unfortunately, I do feel like that's probably what's going to be what starts it off. I'm a little bit more confident in the fact that, with him launching a VR division, hopefully there'll be standalone types of experiences that come out, even if it's just short films or something. I've seen a couple short films already in VR or 360 video that, were pretty, they're I don't want to say mind blowing, but it's a different way to experience this type of this entertainment. It's actually a different form of entertainment at this point because you're almost in it. And so like I said, I'm just curious to see what he comes out with. Obviously, he's buying into the whole VR. I don't want to call it hype, but just the VR movement. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I think that that's definitely going to continue to happen. The gimmicky stuff or the kind of one-offs for movies. But
I'm just saying it doesn't have to be. And
I just hope it doesn't stop there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think it's a bad. I mean, if it ends up being like that and it does do the kind of things I'm talking about, get people talking about it. get people excited about VR, etc. Like there's so many good things that can come out of a project like that, regardless of how involved the experience is and whatnot. So I totally agree with you. I just think that this one could be really cool. So I love the Alien franchise. So
no, me too. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll report back once the Alien Covenant experience thing is out.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so got one more news item that I wanted to get into, and it's not really a news item, but it's also going to lead into our game talk, and that is the Viveport launch. I know that we spoke at length about it last week, but I actually got it this week, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a review of my experience. And like I was telling you before we started recording, Ronnie, it was really smooth. So I had downloaded Viveport. I don't know. I think a while back. I think you had actually downloaded it on my computer when it came out, since I wasn't really sure what it was.
I think we were trying to download some I don't know if we ended up talking about it on the podcast or not, but some like Donald Trump in the Oval Office experience thing that was on the Vive.
I think it was actually even before that. I think the Donald Trump thing was after. I think it's called Wide Awake. But no, this was a while back, because remember they were offering Firebird La Prairie or something for like $1.
Yeah.
And I know you jumped on that because you'd heard good things about it, and so yeah. I mean, I already had the app, so I can't comment on the installation at this point. Although I do remember it being pretty smooth for us when we downloaded it back in however many months ago. So I already had the app, but I opened it up. It updated itself, so now there's a new tab on there for subscription. And I went through and put in my credit card info and email address and all that. And the subscription is $6.99 per month, but you get the first month free. And the way that it works is you get 5 titles per month. So at this point, I got to select 5 titles, and they have, I don't want to say a very wide selection, but they have a selection of titles that I would say are some that everybody know.
How many are we talking? I know you don't have an exact number off the top of your head.
I'd say there's at least 20 to 25 titles at this point right now. They have the editors or staff picks or something like that, which is where I picked most of mine off of. And the 5 that I got, just to start off with, are Arcade Saga, Mars Odyssey, Everest, Fantastic Contraption, and Firebird La Prairie. So, I mean, these are all games or apps that people paid for in the past and have gotten at least somewhat of a decent review. We won't go back to,
and some of those are kind of pricey too. It's not like they're all.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't want to go back to your review of Everest, because I know for the amount of experience, I think you felt that it was a little overpriced.
Yeah, but that's the perfect situation. Paying for a service like Viveport and being able to, try it out and mess around with it for a while is probably the perfect way to experience something like that.
Nope. Yeah. And so that's why I got it. And I mean, a lot of these I've heard of already, like Mars Odyssey, Fantastic Contraption, Everest, all of these are, titles that I've heard, but, didn't really want to fork over the money for, when I could be buying another game.
Fantastic Contraption. I mean, that was good enough to where it was actually a bundled game with the original Vive.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, those are, that sounds like a solid bunch of starting games, for the system.
No, it really is. And like I said, I'm getting this first month for free, and how it's going to work is that May 19th or May 20th, when my month resets, and this is that'll be the first time that they charge me. At that point, I'm sure they're going to send me an email or something, but I'll have a 3-day window in which I can go in and select 5 new titles. So that's how the logistics of this works. It's not like, okay, once you're done with something, you can return it.
What happens if, let's say, you're very hands off, you select the 5 titles, you mess around with them, and then you don't go back to it for a month and a half, or what happens?
Yeah, see, I don't know, and this might be where they run into some issues and might have to make some changes. But as of right now, all I remember reading was, I'd have a 3-day window when my subscription renewed, and at that point I would have to go through and pick 5 new titles. I don't know if it keeps the same 5 titles. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, and I don't really want to test it. I mean, I'm gonna wait to see some of the complaints come up somewhere.
I mean, I hope that they at least explain. I mean, maybe at the end of the trial or at the end of the first month, you'll get some kind of a message kind of explaining to you in more detail how it all works.
Potentially, and if I do, I'll definitely let you know, or I'll let everyone listening know, and I'll do some more research into it now. I'm just reporting back on what was sent to me initially, and so yeah, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. Like, I mean, what if you're traveling for like a week or something? You're out of town, overseas, limited access to internet, that type of thing. You don't want to get screwed over for an entire month. I totally get that, and I hope that HTC and Viveport would have something in place to be able to work around that. But you know, with it coming out, just earlier this month, I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot of tweaks and changes as it goes along. You know, when you know, a service like Netflix first came out, I'm sure it wasn't as perfect and streamlined as it is now, and so if this comes up and enough people complain about it, I'm sure they're going to find another model so that they don't lose subscribers.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So yeah, overall, like I said, the process was pretty smooth. The thing that took the longest for me was downloading some of the games. So, you know, it's not like those took a long time. I'm just trying to give context for the fact that like everything was very streamlined. I didn't run into any hiccups. And I know I've seen on Reddit and other places people complaining about Viveport, but for me so far, it's been pretty smooth. I tried out some of the games that I had downloaded, one of which I'll talk about during our game talk. And I recommend it highly for the simple fact that you get the first month free. So join it, get the first month free, try out a bunch of games, see what you like, see what you think after a month, and you could probably cancel it before the month is even over once you've gotten all the experiences out of the way. But, you know, they're saying that they're going to continue to add stuff, and I would assume that all of their first party titles will make it on there at some point, for the simple fact that Arcade Saga, which is the first party title that they launched, is already on there. So
very cool. For people that are out there that maybe haven't installed Viveport yet because they really, you know, didn't see a reason to before the subscription service came out or something like that, explain real quick, how do you get into Viveport games versus Steam games? Like, what was let's say, assume that they got far enough to, you know, download the software, install it, and all that sort of thing. What's it like to actually open up, like, and get to Viveport games?
So, I mean, I just open up the app. You can go to the section that says like library or my content or something like that. And then that has the list of all the games that you own, whether you bought them through Steam or through Viveport or downloaded it through the Viveport subscription. And you can actually launch it from there, and it uses Steam VR. So like I hit, you know, go or launch or whatever in Viveport. It doesn't open Steam, but it opens up Steam VR. And it works through there in order to you know, boot up your Vive and get everything
going.
So
you're able to get from Viveport game to Viveport game kind of, you know, just as easily as you would through normal Steam.
So I haven't. Oh well, yeah. On the computer, it's fine. I haven't checked it inside of the headset, but I do remember Viveport having a pretty cool interface inside of the headset before this whole thing came about.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would assume that. Well, I won't assume, but you know, I know that there's a way for you to get from game to game within the headset through Viveport.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just and I recall that too. I just wanted to bring it up just in case there's people out there that, you know, might have questions about that. Or it is a slightly different system. Like, you, rather than going through the Steam app on your PC to kind of load stuff up, you're going through the Viveport app itself. But beyond that, it's very intuitive. It's really just as easy. It's just a different app in a different location. So.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. I feel like Viveport is off to a pretty solid start, and I'm rooting for it, man, because I'm all about subscription services these days. It's more so just easy access to a lot of different titles, and for the games, I feel like for the games that we play on a weekly basis, just to do game talk, I spend more than $7 a week. At least, unless it's a free game or experience or something super cheap. But most of the time I want to try and find something that's recent, something that's popular, whatever the case might be, or highly reviewed. So the fact that I'm spending $7 a month and hopefully being able to go through a lot of these, a lot of the titles in there, to me, that's I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I hope the longer the subscription service stays active, the more and more experiences that they're actually able to kind of curate and kind of handpick and to include in the subscription, because that is one thing I think that Steam is kind of lacking in a lot of ways that Viveport could potentially make up for, is the fact that it's often kind of hard to find standout titles in Steam, especially with new releases and whatnot coming out all the time. I mean, for your average person, it's kind of overload to kind of, to get into Steam and try to figure out beyond just what's most popular, what good titles are coming out. And so Viveport could be a simple way for people to kind of, hopefully find the good stuff out of the mix. So.
Yeah, especially if they have like curated lists like the staff picks and things like that. I feel like that'll just make it a little bit easier. And I know that Steam has a fantastic refund policy, but like you were saying, it's just really tough because like you go through Steam right now, and I'm not complaining about Steam. I'm just complaining about like the overwhelming nature of like how many VR titles are coming out and the how difficult it is to kind of sift through what's good, what's bad, and what's mediocre. But like when you're there, you're buying, and even though it's returnable and refundable, there's still that sense of permanence to it. So like I tend to shy away from something unless I really really know that it's going to be a good experience or that it's well reviewed. For Viveport, for me, like there were a bunch of like random games that I saw and there were random different apps where I'm just like, okay, I'll get that next month. And if it if it's not great, then it costs me I guess $1 or something to try it out, but then I can switch it around next month. It's not like the end of the world. So I don't know. It might just be a psychology thing for me, but I feel like a lot of people would fall into that boat.
No, that makes sense to me. So
cool. Well, so let's transition over to Game Talk. You want me to go first since we're only talking about Viveport?
Go ahead.
I played Arcade Saga, and I know this came out quite a while, well, not that long ago, but the big hoopla around it was the fact that it was the first and initial first-party title for HTC, launched through Vive Studios. And so it had, well, where do I start with it? It's got a great feel to it. It's a collection of small different mini games. They have some semblance of a storyline that is really more so just almost like cartoonish and not worth your time, to be honest. They're trying to talk about like humans and robots and taking over the world and things like that. And I'm just like, okay, I don't understand how like a mini game about archery or with a baseball bat or something is going to make a difference, especially when it has, you know what I mean? It's just like random levels, but it's mini games. I only tried the single player version for now, but I believe all the 3 mini games have multiplayer capabilities as well. And the first one, I forgot the names of the mini games now, but I'll put it in the show notes. But it's another archery type of game. It took me a little while to get used to the feel on the bow, but that's not because it was bad. It's just because it was a little bit different than some of the other games that I've played out there. So it's just a matter of getting used to the mechanics, not the mechanics, but used to what I'm talking about, like the feel of it.
Yeah. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It actually felt pretty smooth, and they have several different bows that you can choose from with different abilities and things like that. And I mean, there's just like boxes flying around you, and it's almost in like it's a little bit over 180 degrees. So
It kind of reminded me of like Space Pirate Trainer almost, but
Okay.
a little bit further back. Like I had to turn more than 180 degrees,
Okay.
just because like sometimes they go a little bit behind you.
Sure.
But it was cool. It reminded me of your description of Hollow Point, which is a game I never played. But
Okay.
you know the boxes are shooting stuff at you.
Okay.
The boxes are shooting little boxes at you, of which are bullets, and you know you can slow down time, or time slows down a little bit, and you can dodge them. And you know you're supposed to be shooting a lot of these flying boxes. And like I said, it sounds really arcadey, and I guess that's why they probably named it that. After playing a lot of different archery games out there, this didn't really cut it for me. Just honestly speaking, like I said, not because it was bad. Like I actually felt like the gameplay, the mechanics, everything about it, there was a really nice sense of polish to it. But you know, like I don't really want to shoot boxes when I can shoot zombies, or I can shoot robots, or you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different other options out there, or orcs or something, whatever the case might be, or even those little tiny black characters in in Longbow. But it's just like it was good. It felt polished, and to be honest, I don't know that I would ever get it for, you know, the asking price. I think it came out at $29.99, and I feel like I do remember hearing some dissatisfaction on, you know, the reviews and through Reddit and things like that in terms of how much gameplay you actually got out of it. But for this, I think it's fantastic, and it's even one of those games that I would probably keep on a month-to-month basis, at least for now, because it's easy to show to newcomers to VR, or first time VR users. It's easy to set up. You know, they just jump right in, and boom, you're off to the races. And I'll just quickly quickly give descriptions for the other two. There's one. It's almost like a brick breaker type of game. But you're obviously the bricks are, you know, twice your size, and they fill up a room that's about the size of like a basketball court, or a small college stadium or something. And you have in your right hand a baseball bat that you hit a ball with, you know, and the ball flies around the room, bounces off walls, and breaks the bricks. And then in your left hand you have, I don't know what they called it, but it's something just like to call the ball towards you, so you can kind of hold it in place and then hit it in whatever direction you need to.
Got it.
So I did that. I recorded a video of me playing all three games, which I'll post up on the YouTube channel. I sucked at this game. I don't know why. I could not aim while hitting while trying to hit the ball in a certain direction. But hey, I've never gotten any of the other tennis games either. It's just not my thing. So
yeah. I'm just kind of curious, like what's the production values like? Like one of the things that was kind of exciting about this was that it was going to be a first party title. And I'm just curious, like, does it seem to be kind of well put together compared to a lot of the other stuff out there, or does it not
like
really
I said,
stand out in those?
It's got a good sense of polish to it in terms of the gameplay and graphics. But I mean, you look at some of the top indie games out there, like, you know, I'd say Raw Data, Arizona Sunshine. Like a lot of these games have much more to offer, in my opinion. You know, so like I said,
well, and those are like two of the biggest titles. Like,
yeah, so maybe it's not fair to compare it to those, but I just did. So, you know, like it's
fair enough.
But I would say even like some other titles, maybe it's I don't know. I really don't want to bash the game, because I think you know it's a strong effort by HTC and by Vive Studios, and you know I want them to continue coming out with great content. So you know I want to support. I didn't support in buying the game when it came out, but I wanted to make sure that I got it through Viveport, because I know that they get some type of royalties on the back end for that anytime somebody borrows the game. So I guess I'm happy to support in this way, even though this is more but whatever. My point being is that, like, I'm not trying to bash the game. I'm just trying to say that if you're going to look at it from a comparison standpoint to a lot of the other titles that are out there, Like it's great, it's good, but I don't know that I would get it over some of the other games that I've played. Or I don't. It's fun to show a lot of first time VR users because it has. I want to say it reminded me actually a lot of something like The Lab, for example. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Where if it had come out for free, just like The Lab did, it would have been like, oh man, this is great to show first time VR users. But after you've played games that have significant storylines, that have a good amount of gameplay, replay value, and just a little bit more depth to them overall, it's hard to go back to something like this on a repeat basis.
No, that makes sense.
So yeah, and I think the last game or the last mini game it's almost like you're standing on one side of this hallway and there's a robot on the other side, and you have these two paddles in your hand. It's like Pong, essentially, 3D VR version of Pong, where you're just kind of
with robots.
Yeah, well, you're just hitting this ball. You're just hitting this ball back and forth. And you don't really have a bat. It's more so like a circle that represents your like a flat circular surface that represents your controller. And you just kind of use that to bat the ball, and you can like twist your controller when you hit it to give it some spin, give it a little English. But yeah, for the most part, like it's essentially just Pong. You're playing it back and forth. And it reminds me of a game I think that or a mini game that Rec Room has as well. If you know what I'm talking about. You use like a paddle or something, but it's similar to that. It just looks more futuristic, and they got some pretty badass music going on in the background. So I feel like that's where the first party stuff really kicks in, is just like I said, the overall feel of it, good music and things like that.
Hey, for some people that makes a big difference. So.
No, it made a difference for me. I noticed it, and so that's why I'm not trying to bash this game. I'm not trying to like show, put it in a negative light. It's just when you ask me in context of other games that I've played,
sure.
It feels like something that should have come out last year. Well, I guess I'm not sure when it did come out, but point being, like, I felt like it's something that should have come out near the launch of the Vive, and I think it would have held a lot more value, and it would have been one of those games where everyone's just like, oh yeah, remember Arcade Studios, like when it first came out, that was awesome, and you know what I mean? Like,
Arcade Saga.
Sorry, Arcade Saga, when that came out, like, oh yeah, that was awesome. Now, granted, like we've moved on to other things, but it was weird for it to come out after a lot of more established, not more established, but just deep, more in-depth titles came out.
No, that makes sense. That totally makes sense to me, because I do feel like to some extent some of the things that we were seeing several months ago, are kind of, been there, kind of done that. Even if they're done well, if anything, that's a testament, I think, to the improving quality of titles that are available on the Vive right now, and less so about the quality of Arcade Saga per se, but just there's a lot of really cool stuff out there, and so it's becoming harder and harder to kind of release something that really stands out.
No, that's fair, and I mean, I'm sure that this was being worked on for a while, and then I'm not saying that it got delayed, but with the fact, I'm sure they had to wait for Vive Studios to officially launch before the game could come out. So who knows how long this game was, like, quote unquote finished, but not ready for release yet. So you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where maybe the timing didn't work out. And again, like, this is a totally subjective perspective and viewpoint and opinion from me. But I would say that just the timing and just where a lot of the other games are when it came out and where they are right now. It's fun to go back to. And for anybody who gets the Viveport subscription, I would definitely say check it out, because it's worth checking out. Especially since it might be one of the top games there at the moment. But then again, I haven't really tried any other stuff, so I'll have to wait until May 20th or whenever to get 5 new titles.
Cool.
So yeah, how about you, man?
So the game I ended up playing, and it was kind of a toss-up between this and another title that I already purchased, but we're going to wait till next week to talk about. This week I decided to play Crazy Fishing. And Crazy Fishing just came out earlier in the month, like around, I guess the first week of April. And I mean, what I see here, I think I picked it up maybe for maybe for a little bit less. I think it was on sale. I'm trying to remember if I picked it up during the 1 year anniversary for Vive when there was that sale on Steam or not. But regardless, it's a $20 title right now, and it's a fishing game. And I think that if anything, this title definitely shows that there is huge potential for, in my opinion, for a really solid fishing simulator or fishing game. This is not a simulator by any means. If I could, it has a kind of cartoony, goofy feel to it. And the graphics and all of that stuff are great, actually. They're really well done. There's all kinds of different fish, and you're basically chilling at a lake, and there's all different kinds of, baits that you can either find on the dock, or you can teleport around the lake. So you can kind of teleport from location to location by the lake and find different types of, you can find like a shrimp looking thing near the shore and use that to see if you can attract different kind of fish. And there's kind of this, element to, figuring out what lures and, types of, fishing rods that you need in order to attract different kinds of fish. And then it keeps track of what fish you've caught. And I think that's like the main thing that you're trying to do in the game is over time catch, all of the different types of fish. I played for, I don't know, probably close to about an hour or so. And, I caught a few different types of fish and just kind of teleported around. I didn't fully get to figuring out like how to use, there's a boat that I could see in the middle of the lake, and I didn't fully understand how to get over to that yet. And it also looks like you can find keys to different chests, and there's like they had a fun like kind of Easter thing this weekend where you can find Easter eggs and collect them in a basket. So there's like, there's the main fishing, which is the main, portion of the game, obviously. But then it seems like the developers are adding, and it sounds like it might be it's probably a team, but I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, it sounds like, the developer is really, adding quite a bit. I mean, all of the stuff I mentioned about, excuse me, all the stuff I mentioned about being able to teleport around in kind of an open world fashion around this lake environment, looking for different types of objects, and there's like a campfire scene. There's like all that stuff sounds like it was added pretty recently. So I think if they're already showing commitment to adding that kind of stuff, then I think, I think there's hopefully going to be a lot of value to this game. And if done correctly, and I did think some of the stuff was a little confusing. Watching videos of other people playing the game versus, me just going in and kind of messing around, I wasn't able to find quite as many exciting things as I think some of the stuff I saw in the videos. But it definitely has a lot of potential, and the mechanics of just kind of holding the trigger and letting that rod kind of let loose, and your hook and line goes flying out there into all that stuff felt right. I wish there was a little bit more feedback on reeling in, and particularly one thing I noticed that I was kind of missing was if you don't catch a fish, like when you do catch a fish, let's say a fish, likes whatever you had attached to your hook and bites, and you're now on the chase. When that happens, a little meter pops up, and you can kind of tell if if the fish is tugging too hard to where it might break the line, or if you're trying to reel it in too fast, and you kind of balance that out until the line finally comes back to you with the fish on it, hopefully. So that there is some feedback on. But let's say you're just kind of messing around and you throw you cast your line out, and then you wanna reel it back in. You can't really tell how much longer you have to reel in order to get it back, other than just the visual of being able to see your hook. And depending on how far you threw it, that can be quite a while. Like you might be going in circles, reeling your line in over and over and over and over again, and you can't really see how much longer you're going to have to do it for or not. So like adding some kind of visual indicators of how much line was actually released on your rod and how much more you're going to have to reel it in order to get it back. Like some of those things would be nice to see. And I also think it would be nice if there was a little bit more maybe I just didn't do it long enough, but I felt like it would be cool if you caught a smaller fish, you keeping that smaller fish maybe on your reel or somehow finding a way to kind of knock it out or something and then use it as bait for like a larger. Bigger. Yeah, exactly. Like something like that. Like those because all the kind of fish that I was able to find so far, they were all really fun and kind of goofy. Like they weren't real types of fish, but they were like funny kinds of fish. Like they were cartoony kind of caricatures of different types of fish. And so it seems like in that kind of a game, something that's kind of silly like that might be kind of fun. Like I said, like kind of knocking it to where like the little X's appear on its eyes or something, and then using it as bait or something like that. Like it could be fun and it would fit into this kind of silly world that they're creating. But the atmosphere is great, and it does feel like you could just kind of chill and kind of mess around and I think that's kind of, if anything, what I like the most about this game is just the idea that if done well, I don't think it's this game. I think this game is more a silly, kind of funny, arcadey type game that has these fun fishing elements, but also has a lot of things to mess around with. Like I said, I think the teleportation stuff around that kind of goes a long way as far as if people are interested in this idea of playing kind of a goofy, fun, cartoony fishing game with lots of little things to do here and there and to mess, things to mess around with. I think adding that teleportation and exploration part of the game really makes this makes the future of this game look bright because I think there's a lot of possibility as far as things to do in the game beyond just the fishing. But this game does make me realize that it would be really cool to have some more realistic, kind of simulation almost.
Like the mechanics for actually fishing?
Yeah, because it's not so much that the mechanics are that off. I mean, obviously, in a real simulation, you would have to account for all kinds of different other things. But just, it seems like kind of a neat thing to be able, and you would have to speed it up and not make it so long as real fishing,
Yeah.
But it is kind of neat to be kind of chilling by water, hanging out with kind of a relaxing, kind of tune in the background and just being able to kind of cast that line out and get the line taut and, kind of just sitting there and watching for that bobber to kind of go up and down. And I think all these things are possible. And I definitely know that there were simulation fishing games on different consoles in the past. And, I feel like one of the biggest detriments to games like that, like Sega Bass Fishing and other things were that you used to have these weird peripherals. Like you'd have to buy basically like a fake fishing rod in order to really feel like, and even then you weren't really actually casting it. Like in
also
this,
your screen was flat.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the Vive would be a great place to have a legitimate fishing title come out that kind of takes itself a little bit more seriously. And so this is a step towards that, and I think it's just neat that someone came out with a title like this. So it's a little pricey right now. Maybe there's I'll have to check back in after getting to play it a little bit more just to see if I think there's more to it right now. But I can tell you that it looks like someone's taking a lot of time and effort to really make this a high quality experience.
Well, let me comment on that real quick because I'm on the Steam page right now. It looks like you actually got in at a good time. So April 12th, they released their early access roadmap. And it looks like they have content that they're planning to add over the next 4 weeks. This week being the first one. So April 16th is when they released the exploration and teleportation, so that, it's like open world exploration. You can go around, find new baits, find new different things, and solve little puzzles and stuff, which is probably what you were doing. Especially, this is the one that has like the Easter surprises as well.
Yeah.
Week 2, so I'm assuming this would be next week sometime. They're doing stores, food, and fisherman belt. So like inventory and storage, I think they're gonna allow you to eat some of the fish, which will have some type of effect on you, I think. So that should be interesting. I want you to report back on that. But week 3 is where it gets interesting. They're gonna add a story and progression to the game.
Dude, so with that said, like, I mean, I don't want to kind of prematurely throw out a recommendation, but really, it seems really cool. Like I can tell even in this early stage of what I played, to be honest, still felt like there were some things missing here and there out of like making it clear to me what I was supposed to be doing and all these sort of things. But that said, like, it was very clear to me, like as clear as any title out there that, is well developed and that a lot of attention to detail is being put into this game, a lot of love, a lot of care, and it's very high quality. So if any of those things come to pass, like, like this timeline that they're mentioning, and based on what I saw, it seems like a very promising title. So
yeah, this is the first time I'm seeing an early access roadmap like this. I'm sure there might have been stuff in the past, but this is cool. I like this. It's very, at least they've stuck to it for the first week, but I like how they have a game plan. They share it with, they share it with anybody who's on the page. So anybody who's a fan of the game. So you know what to expect, what's coming. And even if it takes a little bit longer at that point, at least you know that, that's what's being worked on, and you could potentially give suggestions and things like that.
Yep. But yeah, what's there already is very high quality. And it looks like what they're adding, like if that teleportation stuff, like you were mentioning, was something that was just added. I mean, it's pretty well developed, and it's really like, in even this early stage, you see so much promise. So it's a super cool title, and I think for people out there that are just looking for something a little bit different, that might be interested in, playing something like I described, then you should definitely check it out.
Cool. Well, I've always liked fishing to a certain extent. I don't go regularly, but I'd love to go virtually. Sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, that sounds like a cool game. I will actually probably want to check that out as well. So I'll give it a look. Maybe wait a week or two until that story mode game or story mode option comes out and see what people are saying.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that's all I got. How about you?
Yeah, no, that's it for this week. So
sweet, man. Well, another episode in the books. Guys, we're excited. I know we keep promising interviews, but we finally have some lined up. It's honestly just been tough to schedule with me being out of town and Ronnie being out of town and just people coming into town. But we do have those coming up for you guys very soon. We'll have one up later this week, actually. And from there, make sure you guys subscribe on iTunes, leave us a review there, and shoot us a screenshot. And make sure we'll continue the conversation on YouTube. Let us know if there's any cool games that you guys are playing. Let us know what your experience with Viveport, the subscription service, is so far. Just curious to see if anybody's having a negative experience, because, like I said, mine has been positive so far. But aside from that, Ronnie, man, you have a good rest of your week.
You too.
All right, guys, take care, and we'll talk soon.